This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined once again by Eddie Hearn. How are you, Eddie? You've had a shave?
Yeah, I've had a shave and I'm very hot. I'm wearing a pair of white trousers that are sticking to my legs and literally I can hardly move.
So we're here today at the Dillian Whyte-Joseph-Parker weigh-in. What did you make of the weigh-in? I think a few people were a little bit surprised at Dillian's weight coming onto the scales.
Yeah, I think he's probably a bit too heavy, to be honest with you, but I don't think he really cares. Parker came in, what, 6 pounds heavier than the Joshua fight, which I think is fine. He's in good shape. I think Parker was probably a little bit too light for the Joshua fight. I think this time he actually looks like he's ready to have a fight rather than to move for 12 rounds. And I think that is his aim. I really do. I think Dillian is going to find troubles with the speed. But you know, it's up to Dillian to find a way. He's going to have to close the distance. Dillian's going to have to make Joseph Parker fight. That's what he's got to do. And you know, he mustn't, I've said it before, he mustn't get too embroiled in this, I've improved technically, let's get behind the jab. Like, he has to do what he's good at, which is to get involved in a tear up and come out the other side. And I believe Parker wants the fight as well, and I think he's going to have to.
Something I said to you yesterday about Dillian Whyte in fight week, it's been quite a reserved Dillian Whyte. Got on the stage today, there was a very different feeling from Dillian Whyte today.
A little bit as well. I just said to him after, oh, what was all that about? He said, no, he said, just, I've had enough, I've been respectful, now it's time to fight. He said he smelt blood up there. And Parker was a bit sort of like, where's this come from? But Parker's had the bit between his teeth. I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of interviews with him this week saying he wants to do damage, he wants to knock him out. I haven't really heard that from him before in his career, so I hope he means it, because we're going to get something very special.
Rest of the card, Derek Chisora. That was another interesting weigh-in at the press conference.
I'm with Chisora, because you never know. Like when he started walking up into his face, with Derek, he has the ability to snap in a nanosecond at the most, like yesterday, for example, someone put Katie Taylor on the top table rather than Chisora Takam, and he walked into the press conference and he went, and he saw his name at the bottom, he went, I'm going home. And he just walked out. I went, where are you going? He went, I ain't sitting on the bottom table, I'm going, and walked out. And I'm like, I had to drag him back. So Derek Chisora does what Derek Chisora wants to do. So that's going to be an absolute war, because, you know, and if anyone's watching this who is going to the O2 tomorrow night, I really want you to get behind Chisora and try and lift him, because that could be the difference in this fight. It's going to get horrible. He's going to come out like a train. He's going to go for it for 5-6 rounds, and then we're going to see where we're at. But the more energy we can create in a place, the longer he can go on for. And I thought his line yesterday in the press conference was such a great line. I want to be carried out of the ring in terms of exhaustion. So what he's saying is, I want to give every ounce that is left in my professional career to this fight tomorrow night. Unfortunately for him, Takam is an absolute beast, and he's extremely tough, has an unbelievable engine, and he's actually underrated technically. So it's going to be a very tough fight.
Josh Buatsi, I've not heard of his opponent. I know that you'd said previously that you were looking at getting him a Russian opponent. That didn't happen. How did you end up on the opponent that you've got for him now?
He's a guy that has fought a lot of top light heavyweights and done well. He boxed Enrico Colin, had lost on points. So he's been around. He's very fit. He was due to fight. This again for him is like his world title fight. He can't stop shaking my hand saying, I'm going to win tomorrow night. So I expect Buatsi to come through, but it's the first 10-round fight for Buatsi. Hopefully he gets more rounds. He's ready now. You know, he's ready for everybody domestically after this fight, and looking forward to pushing him on.
Just finally with this card, Dave, the White Rhino, Alan.
Is he official Boxing Social Ambassador?
He's official Boxing Social Ambassador. More comebacks than Sinatra, yes, Dave Allen. Talk to me a little bit about him against Nick Webb.
Oh, it's a 50-50 fight. And I just hope that, you know, Coogan come over early and did a piece where he's like, what's your words of advice to Dave Allen? So I'm done with words of advice. I don't know where Dave Allen's head's at. All I know is he can win tomorrow night. And if he won this British title eliminator, he could be in a big fight. But I don't know if he even wants that in his life. I know he'll try because he's a competitor, he has a huge heart. But just move your head and let your hands go. That's my advice for Dave Allen. You never know with Dave Allen whether it's going to be an absolute stinker or an absolute fight of the year. This against Webb could be a brilliant fight. Could be terrible.
Something that he said to me actually, he said that it could be the worst fight in the world or it could be a great fight. You know what Dave's like. Something that I spoke to him about, we did a really long interview a couple of nights ago, It seems like a lot of, because he has this such like rich Twitter following and people do love Dave. I think on the flip side of that, people are worried about him. He's not long been out of the ring from a bit of a shellacking against Tony Yoka. What do you say to people like, I mean, Dave doesn't care, but what do you think?
The job of a manager is to protect your fighter, and also a promoter. He's not our fighter, but I care for Dave and I like him. No one wants to see him get hurt. With all due respect to Nick Webb, he's not Luis Ortiz or Dillian Whyte or even Tony Yoka. So this is a 50-50. So you can't turn down 50-50 fights worrying about Dave Allen getting hurt. Like if this was Luis Ortiz, and probably looking back, maybe he shouldn't have boxed Luis Ortiz. But he did, and again, he didn't really get hurt against Luis Ortiz. By the way, he didn't really get hurt much against Tony Yoka. I think I heard an interview, he said he got buzzed once, and he wasn't dropped, scrambling. But he has to be careful not to take too many shots. That's boxing. But you can't really protect a fighter when they're in a 50-50. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, what do? You only take fights where you're a massive favourite. That's not boxing. That's not good for anyone. You might as well quit the sport. So, on the plus side, he makes a load of money tomorrow night. He's on a big win bonus as well. He told me he would have fought for nothing, which he genuinely would have. But it's not about that. I said to him today, I said, Dave, like, he made good money for the Yoka fight, and he's making good money tomorrow. So he actually has the ability to buy a house, you know, put a big deposit down in a nice house up round his way, perhaps make some kind of inroads to paying off a mortgage, which is what I want to see fighters do, or start his own business. This is if he wants to leave the sport. The other flip side is beat Webb and get a bigger payday in your next fight and go and fight for a major title. But with Dave, I think this Twitter following and this social following it's made him very happy. I mean, having a presence on social media is good and bad. When it's good, it's a really great place to be, social media. You know, it can make you feel great. People are behind you, people are complimenting you. And when it's bad, it ain't a great place in the world to be. I mean, luckily I've got thick skin, but I can't sit there and tell you that I love people calling me a prick all day long. You know what I mean? After the 4,000th one, it's like, oh, that hurt a little bit. So, but that's the worry with people that are on social media who might, you know, we know Dave has talked about mental issues and stuff like that. So we need to get behind Dave Allen. He does need protecting in terms of the fights that he takes, but you can't stop him taking 50-50 fights for good money, or he should and could win on Saturday night. If this was a fight, like if this was Luis Ortiz now, I would say, mate, you can't take this. But again, if he gets his head screwed on tomorrow, he has a real chance.
Speaking of tweets about people who are, you know, not nice tweets. I had some tweets yesterday about you calling me homeless, Eddie. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, you said that I wasn't particularly slender, so I took offence to that, and I looked at you and I thought, what can I say to this geezer? And you look a little bit smarter today than you were yesterday, and I thought, you look like, maybe homeless was the wrong word. You look like you haven't washed or, you know, cared for yourself in months. So that was what that was all about. But you do look slightly fresher today.
Well, that's because I bust my ass covering your events.
Oh, and you had a bath last night.
I did. I actually stayed with the White Rhino last night. But yeah, I did. Yeah.
In his room. Oh dear. Sorry about that. And his team. He's probably got about 8 people in his rooms, because I can't remember the deal we give him. What, 3 rooms or something like that? And he's like got about 100 people in each room. So. Yeah.
Stepping away from this card, I was delighted to hear, and really, really surprised to hear that you'd made a deal for Saunders-Andrade against Billy Joe Saunders with Frank Warren. Tell me a little bit about how that deal became to be made.
It was a bit of everything, really. I mean, MTK did a great job in the middle, sort of mediating. We don't really talk that much and people talk about the rivalry. It's a healthy rivalry. It's not like, oh, I hate Warren. I mean, I think he probably hates me a little bit more than I hate him, but I don't think about Frank Warren. I don't go to bed at night with him on my mind. I don't sit at my desk thinking about Frank Warren. It's just, he's a competitor. He's a British promoter, very good promoter. And he is our competition. That's good for fans. That's good for broadcasters. We want to outdo each other. But we don't really talk a lot, so this needed someone, and in this case it was Billy Joe Saunders' management company, to sort of mediate between everything. And they did a great job. Frank still had to accept it and approve it, so he deserves some credit as well. We were going to win the purse bids anyway, and this deal that we did was better off for Billy, which is the most important thing, for Frank and for MTK. So it was a no-brainer. And you know, people talk about politics in sport, and is this the start of matchroom? If the deal is right, then it will happen. Because we don't have the right to stop fighters from being in the right fights for the right kind of money. I won't say who it was, but I was dealing with something in America recently, and I made an offer to a fighter, and the fighter and the trainer and the manager said, we're in. And the promoter said, you can't take that fight. I'm not happy with the deal and I don't make enough money. I was like, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. And it amazed me that you could stop a fighter from being in that kind of fight, unless you turn around and say, I'll match that, you know? Or you say, I'll pay you more than that. But in this situation with Frank, he couldn't match it and he couldn't pay him more. And Billy wanted it. So what are you going to do? Turn around and say, because you'll end up affecting your relationship with your client that way. Imagine if Warren would have turned around and go, sorry Billy, you can't earn that. I mean, it's like record money for him. You can't take that fight you want for that sort of money. Sorry mate, you're going to have to take a quarter in England. That relationship's over. So they've all done the right thing, and hopefully there can be some cross-promotion of fights, and we'll see. But everything is case by case, deal by deal related.
Another word on your Dazn signings. You had your very glitzy unveiling in New York last week or the week before. Can we expect to see further signings? I know Mikey Garcia has been talking about potentially joining your stable. Do you have any updates on any potential deals?
A lot of big names are talking to at the moment. Mikey Garcia is an absolute focus for us, and it depresses me when I see a guy like that. I was watching a press conference yesterday, Mikey Garcia, and I was just thinking, what is this? Like, this is, in my opinion, pound for pound, possibly #1 in the sport. There is no buzz. Well, you know, it's not even on in the UK. No one's even really asked for it to be on in the UK. Is there any buzz in America? No, but I'm talking about like from their side, from the promotional side. Is there any buzz for it in the US? I don't know, maybe, but I don't feel it's a unification. It's a really good fight, and I just hope that I can get my hands on Mikey Garcia, because he is such a great fighter, such a smart guy. I will pay him so much money. I will deliver such great promotion for him. We'll see what happens on Saturday, then we will be sitting down next week. We'll see.
You gave a list of names to Boxing Social that included Jamal Charlie, sorry Eddie, I know it's hard, Keith Thurman, Adrian Broner. Are those now off the table? Are they avenues that you're still looking to pursue?
Keith Thurman, we've never spoke to Keith Thurman. I saw loads of rumours we'd sign Keith Thurman. Never had one conversation with Keith Thurman. Spoke to the Charlos. I know they've got a few issues at the moment. I think one of them got arrested or something like that. Broner, we made an offer to. Who else did you say? Who? Never made an offer to Spence. But we're talking to Jarrett Hurd. We've spoken to Mikey Garcia, obviously. We don't want too many. We only want 3 or 4 more sort of big names. We're pleased with our start. You know, in October, obviously, we've got Vargas, we've got Beterbiev against Callum Johnson. We've also made the McDonnell-Roman fight for the world title, Katie Taylor against Serrano. We've got Joshua on the channel. There'll be another world title fight on that bill. That's 5 world titles. Then we made Andrade against Saunders. That's 6 world title fights. That's our first sort of 2 or 3 shows. So we're very happy.
Just finally, Tony Bellew, Alexander Usyk produced a masterclass against Murat Gassiev in Moscow to win the World Boxing Super Series. Tony Bellew called for that fight. I know you've been talking about potentially making contact with Usyk and his team about making that fight. Where do we stand on that? Is that a fight that we can realistically expect to see?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, it all depends on what Usyk wants, and we're prepared to pay him more money than he's made so far. I've had chats with K2 and Aegis Klimas. They love the fight. Obviously, there's the first person they mentioned in the ring after the fight. Bellew wants the fight. We'll see if they want it. I don't see why they don't want it. I think they'll think they win easy. Bellew's nuts. He wants the fight and he wants it for all the belts. Shows you what type of man he is. So hopefully we get Bellew Usyk in November time.
What's that like, coming from, I mean, when you picked up Tony Bellew and he's now, as you say, he's the first name that comes out of the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world's mouth. That must make you feel good as a promoter.
I'm pleased for Tony because he really deserves it. He's never been given anything, you know, he's boxed. Everybody's been asked to box, and you know, he just loves the challenge. And like, I don't think he should fight Usyk, but he wants it and he believes he can win. And he believes he can become the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. And if you look at Usyk, do you think he's pound for pound #1? You certainly think he's pound for pound top 3. So if Tony Bellew beats Usyk, does he become pound for pound #1? I mean, certainly he has to become pound for pound top 3, and that will drive people crazy. Imagine the internet, whatever they're called, the hardcore or Twitterati. People would be throwing up all over the place. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, Eddie Hearn, I'm glad we managed to cover the whole homeless issue.
Mate, I think I've done about 4 pounds as well, but it's needed apparently because I'm not that slender, you know.
You're looking slenderer and slenderer by the second.
By the day. Thank you.
Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate.